Last meeting, I'd like to welcome Mr. Will Pines to the BRAG as a new executive director of the MDTA, and now pass the floor to him for an introduction.
Yes, well, good evening, everybody. Again, most of you know me by now. I'm Will Pines. I'm recently approved executive director. I've been in the role since January, but certainly not new to the BRAG through numerous presentations over the last several years. I also want to welcome Joey here to the team. He's now our Chief Operating Officer, and he joins us from State Highway Administration. So also a reoccurring face at the BRAG meeting, but now recently joined the MDTA team. So we've got lots of exciting projects and developments happening at the MDTA. Hopefully, I certainly am not going to try to fill Jim Port's shoes, but I'll do my best not to miss a beat here, and we'll have lots of great updates. I know Jim Harkness is going to present on some of those. I'm sure many of you are continue to show a lot of interest in the Tier 1 NEPA. We continue to work towards finalizing that and hope to have an update for the entire BRAG at our July meeting with that. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Tracy.
Congratulations.
Hey, Mr. Chair, if I may. Thank you, sir. Just on behalf of the Secretary's office, we want to really congratulate Will on his elevation status. It's a fantastic and it's even, it strengthens our team even more because now we have Jim over as the secretary. And then he, with Joey now being the chief operating officer, they're not really missing a beat. Joey brings a lot of their skills over from the State Highway Administration. So we are super thrilled to have both Will and Joey in the positions that they are. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. All right. Next item we need to address is the review of the previous meeting minutes held in January. Does anybody have any comments on that? Not. Motion to approve. That's written. Motion second. All in favor? Great. Mr. Chair, one other thing.
Sure. Sorry, I might want to roll tonight. Just for your awareness, we have Andre Futrell, the Chief Operating Officer at the Maryland State Highway Administration. He's sitting in for Tim Smith, the Administrator. So we're happy to have Andre here tonight. And so welcome, Andre.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. Just so everybody know, if I say anything right, my name is Andre Futrell. If I say anything wrong, my name is Tim Smith. So I can do quite well in that, okay? But anyway, very happy to be here. Certainly, we trying to work to support the community and so forth. And we have things going on. We've done some patching, some line striping. We've done some things that we're trying to help with our things. Are you looking down here? I'm not we actually drove. But I think we are ultimately trying to help enhance things down here. So we're very happy to be here. So, thank you very much.
Next thing we're going to address are agenda items requirement of the House Bill 56, which is a report on the group's activities since the last meeting. Any recommendations they have based on those activities. For BRAG duty, they are to provide the MDTA with an independent, citizen-informed perspective of authorities' operations at the Bay Bridge, discuss potential concerns about activity at the Bay Bridge, educate the public about activity related to the Bay Bridge, and work with the MDTA and provide pertinent input related to traffic and customer service issues. If any members like to share their individual educational activities and interactions with their communities since the last meeting. Start.
Last meeting that they're working on the congestion problem. I brought up the fact that the Broadneck community was addressing that on a regular basis. And I just said I would report back at our next meeting.
Thank you. Bring before you take the back to the community.
No, I think Ms. Lynch is doing a great job of that, and I think everybody's pretty aware of what's going on. Mr. Smith came to to the last Broadneck Council of Community meetings, and far as I know, there's a survey that's ongoing, which hopefully is getting good participation, and it's my understanding that we'll go from there. Is that correct?
We've received 1,500 survey responses, unbelievable. And we're following up with safety.
Sure.
Well, just like Queen Anne's County is still marching forward with the letters of support for our resolution, and then Northern County's resolution. We now have every county on the shore except for Worcester, which we're going to visit on the 19th, and Cecil. But we've got, who did we get today? Carroll County? Carroll County. So we're stacking them up. So hopefully this phase one of the NEPA, we're going to get an answer here sooner rather than later.
Not a thing, my friend.
Yours, I think.
Good. The only thing, going back to the minutes,
We already approved that, we can't go back.
I knew that. I think it went real fast there. There's a section in here where we gave the bridge people pat on the back for keeping the roads open. The thing says during inclement weather. And I think it should specify snow and ice. And it wasn't just rain.
Well, that was the wind too and stuff.
Yeah, snow, ice, and wind that day was really bad. They actually had the bridge open.
Any broader?
Yeah, as I kind of mentioned last time, and Jim Moran mentioned, biggest concern I'm hearing is where are we going from here? You know, the commissioners have recommended, as some of the other our community groups recommended, a replacement versus a third span. And that I think is really the principal issue long-term. Short-term, of course, is traffic issues, you know. And another thing I had several folks ask is if MDTA is in the loop on what may have happened with that freighter going out of the channel, and what would have happened if it happened several miles south. And I said, I don't know, but I'll certainly raise the issue. Something went wrong. And I would think you guys, I don't know, are you guys in the loop?
We are, if I may,
I'm sorry.
take a crack at answering that. So I spoke with the Deputy Executive Director. We've gotten a few questions on that as well at the Maryland Port Administration about the ever forward grounding. And essentially, my understanding is that that's still an ongoing investigation on they haven't released details on exactly what happened there. So we've asked to be included when those details are available so that we can, glean any lessons learned. To the extent that they can say, we don't feel that there was anything that was ever at risk related to the Bay Bridge. But we certainly, when we get more details from that investigation, we'll be able to share those.
In line with what Jack's saying, they say, when you drive westbound, you can see the tanker. If anybody drives westbound, you see it sitting out there. A couple of miles south, if that had happened. Can those piers that hold up the bridge, can they withstand something like that running into them?
So all of our river bridges, when they were designed, had to go through a navigation analysis to evaluate a certain ship impact. Certainly ships are different size today than they were back 50 years ago when they were designed. So that analysis is a risk assessment that's done. We do have, you've probably seen the big rock islands down around the suspension span and navigation channel.
I'm not referring to the cement pillars. I'm talking about those big blocks of cement.
But an collision from a ship can get off course and hit any pier.
Sure.
But yes, to answer your question, the bridges were designed to be able to support navigation through the channel. They do have measures to protect them, but certainly the design standards for today are different as well.
Let's see.
And if I may, Jack, just so you know, yes, they're in the loop. The whole Department of Transportation, along with other state agencies, constant communication. We all, for Department of Transportation, for MDTA and the Port Administration, we fall under the same umbrella. So the same operations people, they talk all the time. The executive directors have the ability to pick up the phone. The Department of Environment, in fact, the executive director gave a question, fielded some questions today at the Board of Public Works at the very beginning. There was a couple questions asked, and he gave an update. He gave a little bit of an update from the Coast Guard from what he could share from their report. So, we do have access to all of those as well as what's going on. And then, of course, one of the things they're doing is dredging around the thing. There'll be a dredge spoils available for some of the islands, but there'll be, determine who's going to be paying for all this. But yeah, rest assured that all of our divisions are chatting about this and with other state agencies and the governor's Department of Homeland Security as well.
It's helpful for us to be able to relate back. So thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I continue to send out information to my distribution list for somewhere between 40 and 50 people. I haven't done a final count. And as a member of the Broadband Council of Communities, I try to keep them updated as well. Our last quarterly general meeting was held back in February, and Jim Smith and his group, as well as Anne Arundel County, talked about transportation on the Broadband Peninsula. And Tim presented several suggestions, proposals that the SHA is looking at to help alleviate some traffic on the peninsula.
One thing I had was up to across the bridge a couple of weeks ago, and the westbound truck weigh station was open, and I dressed up Richard was taken care of. Split second was cleared out and all that stuff. But coming across the bridge, they had the westbound weigh station open, and trucks were backing up onto the slow lane on the westbound bridge. So if you're coming across the bridge, you were running into stop tractor trailers if you weren't paying attention. That's a very dangerous situation. The police can't. And figured it out in minutes. But if you get going across the bridge, texting or something, and all of a sudden they're expecting to be going straight through, and all of a sudden the tractor trailers lined up because they're afraid to get around the weigh station or whatever. They were going to stop right on up to the bridge and they're slow. Richard took care of it with the heartbeat and it was figured out.
They're now watching to monitor that to make sure that once it gets to a certain point, it's clear.
Appreciate you taking care of that too.
Absolutely.
Richard, very responsive.
He is. I mean, I've seen truck before. People running into truck before, and it's not a very good outcome usually. That's a surprise when you come off a bridge like that. To all of a sudden, that's just fine. You're not looking everywhere, and all of a sudden it's like a truck stop.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I don't really have. So.
And then one more thing before, this is my third interruption.
Maybe it's on your brain.
Maybe the fourth, maybe the fifth. I'll interrupt Andre a couple times. I just want to recognize we have Delegate Sid Saab who joined us. I believe you're District 33, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He's taken time away from the House of Delegates. You guys only have 5 days left?
Yeah.
Well, 3 or 4 days. You don't work Saturdays, right?
It might work Saturday this week. If we're gonna, it's gonna be this week, but yeah. But
Delegate Saab, he's a good guy. I mean, I've interacted with him when I was in the governor's office and over here. So I'm
It's more pleasurable meeting to be here than there.
Oh, I would think so. You probably don't have any meetings going on tonight, but
no,
but I don't know.
I wouldn't miss that.
Yeah.
No, I definitely want to be here.
You're certainly welcome if you have anything you would like to say or what have you. You're just here absorbing.
Yeah, I would just want to get, some more information, just make sure, keep our constituents in the know. And just want to thank you for volunteers that are doing this important work, and we appreciate that you're doing. So yeah, I'm just also let you know that my office is always open. Anyone that needs any help from us, whether it's from with other agencies or any challenges that you may have or the governor's office, but I know everybody's been good working together on a lot of these. So, we're all on the same team. Thank you for following those meetings and having me.
Thanks. Welcome to attend anytime. All right, so our next item is for some updates on projects. Make sure let's go first.
Smith or? Fine.
Wasn't how much of that.
Basically, let's try that. We plan on having the static sign that they stay on US 50 and place prior to Memorial. We hoping that we could have some success with trying to encourage traffic to stay on and discourage them from trying to hop off. Okay, so we will have that opening up and play by the actual holiday, Memorial Day. And last year we added an extra thought, and we had them out actually beginning on Thursday. This year we're going to have one they're going to be here all weekday long from actually 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. Okay, and they would be able to respond, to assist, or to help with actually incidents, and so forth like that. So we expect to have that in place also. And I find notes, but also on our list. I believe you all were asking for a map, I guess. Yeah, a map of the place in the well. I'm not sure if you can that.
Yeah, so Jason December, Director of MDOT's Office of Transportation, Mobility, and Operations. A lot to say, I know, I'm sorry. The previous BRAG meeting, there was a request for a map of all the DMSs. So I'm not sure if you've received that, would you have that prepared and ready to send out to the group? So that has been completed.
I haven't received it.
No. Yeah, so we'll be sure to send it out. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, I think we've done some patching on, say, Whitehall, I guess. But we're hoping to, once the construction job is done, they have to come in there and really pay the whole thing, really. It's going to be actually back. Construction, really. I think that was all of the things that I had on my list, unless anybody had any.
You'll put in a plug for Andre. Whenever anybody gets a call that because the potholes open up. It seems like we get a big rainstorm and a new one opens up overnight. And he and his crew have been excellent about getting out there and taking care of them. If I had it to do over again, I'll never buy another car with low profile, high pressure tires.
Yeah.
Okay. On the map, if I could too, also just remind too, we did during the last meeting show electronically through chart, you are able to pull up the map in GIS of the DMSs and see actively what is being shown at that point in time. So the map that Jason's talking about is going to be a static map that just shows the locations. You go on chart, you can see exactly what the messaging is in real time.
And just to add a little bit to Andre and Jason, we won't have a meeting again before the next travel time, before the next big holiday, which will be Memorial Day weekend. Just so you all know what the sausage is made behind the scenes. We have Jason and an SHA team working closely with Will's team and Joey's team, communicating the traffic levels all, on the corridor, basically from Annapolis all the way. And we've extended the SHA side. Will we go to Cambridge and start picking up information? So what they do is they send us hourly reports, or sometimes if it clogs up a little bit more, and they're monitoring the traffic all the way through. And that information gets to Andre's teams for the chart, over to Joey and Will's teams for the AOC group. So they know where to redeploy and get to where they need to be. And then they're constantly changing signs if they have to, and doing all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of coordination between the two teams sitting here, as well as the law enforcement, MDTA's law enforcement, the state police, and anything like that. So just rest assured that they are monitoring these things once, it seems like Thursday, it's going to start pretty soon. It's going to be starting on Thursdays, and Jim will be on his way home. From work, and he can't get through. And then I'll start getting texts, which is fine. So anyway, I just wanted to let you all know that that's what happens behind the scenes. They do a fantastic job of communicating. A lot of times there's not a whole lot you can do when there's volume. Volume is volume, but they can try to manage the lights a little bit, or manage having those chart teams and the AOC teams out there try to ensure that we get the do the disabled vehicles or move things along. So just a plug to both those groups and the police that are involved as well.
You know, if I could comment too, Sean, excuse me. The important other part of that is you guys are communicating that out to the public. And that's really a refreshing positive over the last, I would say, year plus.
Yeah.
But there's a noticeable link between the operations and the decision-making and communicating to the public.
Yeah, and what MDTA has done a fantastic job over the last year or so is once backups start occurring, once delays start occurring, then they immediately get into, something will pop up on the message sign. When it hits a certain mile number, they send it out to the notification group. Right. It's hitting the Twitter and all the social media stuff. So they are, and John's back there shaking his head because he knows I call about this all the time. It's like, what happened to the alert? But it's almost automatic that when it happens. So it's as close to automatic as they can.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's a credit to them. They figured out a way to do it.
Yeah, the best piece of advice I think we can give is follow baseband.
Yeah.
Either baybridge.com or baseband. That has the most current information 24/7. All in the baseband will tell you that it's not absolutely real time, but it's updated pretty often.
Yeah, and proactive messaging as well. So as you've noticed, when we're anticipating heavy rains or heavy winds, they've gotten notifications out and say, be aware there may be no two-way traffic for the next couple of days based on the forecast and everything. So they don't do that lightly, so I think the setting the expectations is important, and they do a great job doing that.
Melissa sends emails every 5 minutes.
God bless everybody Melissa sleeps or does anything.
God bless, it's great.
No, it's been
Other coworkers about that.
I'm not, if there's something wrong with the bridge, I know Melissa's gonna tell me.
Yeah.
Nobody replied.
What can they do? Thank you.
Well times. All right,
My turn.
your show. Big show.
Here. All right, so my name is Jim Harkness. I'm the Chief Engineer, Maryland Transportation Authority. I'll be going over our capital projects at the Bay Bridge and just quickly updating you on some things that we either accomplished or will be accomplishing. So our first project is the EB 2757, which is the 5 kV electrical improvements. We are we're getting substantially further along here. We have completed the installation of the 5 kV cable on the South Bridge or the eastbound bridge. We're testing that system now. We're scheduled to commission that system this week and next week, and then work on the North Bridge or the westbound bridge will begin. And we already have temporary platforms and the messenger cable already in place, ready to pull, get ready to pull that new cable across. Our next project is BB 2819, which is the westbound deck rehab and miscellaneous modifications. So obviously the deck rehab portion of this completed a while ago. But we are actively working on completion of the replacement of the gantries on the north or westbound bridge. We have 19 total to do. We have 8 that are fully commissioned. If you drive that bridge, you'll notice that the structure is a little bit different than the old structure. So it's curved and tubular. And so we have 5 of those that are currently out of commission and under construction. And so we anticipate that project should wrap up around the end of summer. We also have pavement markings that will be going on, replacing the pavement markings on that bridge after we had to move them around for the deck rehab part.
If I could, Jim, I just want to give you guys a plug too on that. Another giving kudos here. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to look at the new cameras that have been put in on the new gantries, but they've replaced out the older camera system with new HD cameras, and the quality is just phenomenally better. So I just encourage you at some point, take a look at that. You can see things that you can't see before. I'm honestly not seeing it on the screen, but I can assure you, if you're on your computer, it's, they're pretty impressive. One of the nice things is especially at night where we don't have lighting on the Bay Bridge, you really can't see with the new HD cameras. There's a lot, they give you a lot further into the evening with visibility. So you're just kudos to these guys.
On to our next project, which is BB 3002. That is our priority repairs, miscellaneous modifications, essentially a task order contract that we use to address inspection findings. This project is one that is wrapping up. There's just 14 defects, which is what things that we find during our inspection findings. Just 14 left to close out, and they'll be wrapping that contract up. So then we move on to the next one, which is the replacement for 3002, which is BB 3013. So that is the similar nature, the on-call task order contract. That one NTP'd last fall. And so they have already completed 6 task orders, and they have received a total of 27. So they're well underway and making the repairs that we need to do to keep things in a state of good repair. All right. Then I'll skip the next 2 projects for right now. I'll get back to those at the end. And so we'll go to BB 2726, which is currently in design. It's the eastbound deck rehabilitation project. It is the CMAR project. So again, at this point, we are still working with that contracting team that we brought on board to help inform us on constructability side of this thing. And so our design team is having meetings and holding meetings regarding how they would propose that we could build this this project. We've had 60% plans come in, and we've reviewed those, and we're now working on getting to 90% review comments. So again, this project, as we've talked about in past meetings, will be at night, replacing set panels, sections, and we anticipate we're working very hard to minimize any kind of traffic disruption. And so major construction, the panel replacement, we don't expect until 2020. Another project that's still in design is BB 3004. It's our construction project management office, and as well as a maintenance equipment storage building. That project, it has completed design, and it's wrapping up the permitting. So we're getting ready to send that package off to our procurement group this month, and we'll have it advertised in a couple months, and then we'll be taking bids and hopefully getting a contractor working before the end of the year. All right, and so now I'll go. We also have the, I'm sorry, I'll skip one. So we have the queue detection project, which is something, again, we're working with the State Highway Administration. We're working with University of Maryland, CAT Lab. We're installing sensors along the roadway to give us different pieces of information that we can use to monitor traffic, again, as much as we can. We're looking at doing some things with the University of Maryland, sort of to predict based on what has happened in the past. If they know the time and they know the day of the week, we're hoping to be able to use that to kind of predict what we think will happen in terms of traffic impacts. So again, we can start messaging as early as possible, as efficiently as possible. So that project.
So basically that project is really to gather more information on the backups to tell people, hey, you're going to be in a backup.
It's,
I mean, because
yeah, it's,
without an increase in capacity, there's nothing you can do to alter that with the exception of telling the public, this is not a good time to travel.
it's to help our operations teams on those decisions about when to go into two-way, when you can pull out two-way possibly, with our maintenance or construction activities, when they could have a lane closure, when they can't, because we have this this data set, you know, and we all can see what's happening in real time.
Already, just from a communication standpoint, I actually reviewed some of the graphics today. Every year we focus on go early, stay late type messaging, and we provide Jim and his team based on history and current numbers, what the most recent trends are. They can estimate the windows to some order of magnitude to say, okay, if you come before 7 a.m. or after 10 p.m., you'll be okay. And as you get in the summer, those hours push out further and further. And so we update those times through the summer and into the fall based on history. But I think the queue detection will help us tweak it even more to where the messaging with the hours we give will be really tailored based on a lot more near-term information.
And a lot of that is machine learning. So it's based on a lot of the data and the history, and it's giving more predictiveness for operations, but also communications.
Yeah.
So
Right.
in that sense, Jacob would help.
And that's why we tapped, you know, partnered SHA and the University of Maryland to really kind of push the envelope in terms of not being reactive, but trying to be predictive with what will be coming down the road. It's one of the innovations that we're trying to bring to this corridor. So now I'll go back up to those the projects BB 3008 as well as BB 3014, and so those projects are gate projects, our automatic lane closure projects, as well as the one was the AET and getting rid of the plaza. So on the Eastern Shore, BB 3008, if you've driven across there, you've probably noticed a bunch of the infrastructure improvements so that the gates are out, they're installed, they're along the side of the road there. We have new gantries in place. We've got some signs up on those. We're commissioning some of those units that we're putting in. We still have some additional gantries to go, but on that project, we're getting closer and closer to having the physical infrastructure in place. On shore over here, Western Shore, that's BB 3014. Similar things, they've been installing the gates and got the foundations all in, and they have a lot of the sign structures or gantries up installed overhead. So you can most of that, a lot of that is visible now. They still have a very large gantry that needs to go across the area over here beyond the old toll plaza area. They got to continue to install the rest of the gates, and they have to complete all the electrical. And then, of course, both jobs have the tasks that remain on the IT side of integrating all that with the existing system that controls the signals on the Bay Bridge.
Question on it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. When do you think some of the Jersey barriers and the protective equipment that's been kind of squeezing the lanes a little to the, right down to the white line, when do you think some of that will start to be removed and we'll see the kind of the flow from Cape St. Clair Road to the bridge cleaned up a little bit?
I mean, we're hoping over the next 2 months. That's what we were shooting.
So if I said we should see some changes in the next 2 months, that would be a safe way to put it.
That was our goal.
Okay.
Was trying to get it off by, travel season.
Okay.
To remove some of that barrier that's not there.
Brian, I go there 4 or 5 days a week, back and forth. Is huge difference.
Oh, I know, I drive it too, but I would just, yeah, it's
I mean,
definitely,
it's not perfect, but
No,
it's getting there.
I agree.
And just to be clear, when you talked about the drums, many of the drums that are out there routinely are for the two-way operation. They're not actually for construction. So until the gates are physically in operation, all of the drums that are there for the two-way operation will remain.
No, I'm not an engineer, but my theory is that when the Jersey barriers go away and their shoulders are open again, that it'll kind of keep people moving at a more consistent pace. Now I watch as you kind of get squeezed between where the Jersey barriers are, and you'll see slowdowns at anglers, and then it'll pick back up again. And I'm just wondering, again, not being an engineer, if once those Jersey barriers will go, you'll have a more consistent speed and flow from Cape St. Clair Road all the way through to the entrance to the bridge. Does that make sense, Will?
So you look at like a standard highway capacity manual. If you have shoulders, then you will have a little bit better flow than if you don't have shoulders. So that, yeah, there is some basic traffic logic to what you're saying. However, I do want to clarify, we've had traffic here for many, many years with or without closures. And so don't get yourself that's
Okay.
We're certainly predicting backups this summer, consistent with prior summers. But what I was just trying to drive at, Member Cole, was just that we've seen comments, not necessarily from you, but others, that the barrels for the two-way operation, people think they're for construction. That they see that behind the barrels is gate construction in the median area, but that's actually a barrel that's for the two-way operation. It'll infringe on the lane when we're not in two-way, and then they pull them back to open up the two-way. So all of those barrels are going to stay, and they will look like they're still there for construction because there's going to be work in the median, but what Jim's talking about are those intermittent spots along.
Until the gates start operating, then all the barrels will be removed.
That's right.
Barrels will be removed when the gates operate.
There might be, in the beginning, we might have some assistance to just condition folks how to use this properly.
Them barrels ain't never going away.
No.
There's some transitional stuff for, just to make sure that things are safe and efficient for transitional.
We want to fully leverage the system to not have the deployment take a long time to.
Everybody's asked this question. They see the gates.
Yeah.
Above the barrier, I guess now.
Yeah.
And they're high.
Yes.
So everybody's saying, are they going to stay that high? Are they going to? Can you explain, I guess, how they will turn and lower, or they be lowered and not sit on top of the barrier when they go back like they are now, or something? It's like they're at the windshield level. They're high as a barrier, low.
They will be high. And we have
The height they are now.
Yeah, and they'll just, obviously swing out. So the idea is to be, essentially in your face. If you're in that way, you can see it. It's going to, it's sort of really grab your attention that's there. That's they don't want you there because there's no drums behind it. And so that's our, other than, and use control signal. And I have a presentation that I'm going to walk through. But yeah, your question, that is there.
If people just answer them, they seem high. Trying to find that out.
And there's not a system, the manufacturer, there's not a system that like swings out and lower.
Right.
That's not.
That'd be way too much.
Yeah, that's pretty. And with and so the length on some of those arms out there, because we have those two lanes with some of these arms, and still withstand the wind. So we don't want them to track all the wind, right? So they have to be pretty sturdy. So unfortunately, when they come out, but part of that was the function of how high we had the barrier as well. So it's multifaceted operation. Are you able to pull up the presentation, Charles? Yeah. You don't mind me to straight. Thank you. All right. So as you are probably aware, we had the original Eastbound span opened in July of 52 with the 2-lane roadway that now carries eastbound traffic. We had the parallel structure open in June of 73 as 3 lanes and normally carries westbound traffic. The approach roadways are 3 lanes in each direction, but we have the 5 lanes on the bridge, which as you know is the capacity issue that we talked about. So obviously during periods of congestion or if we have construction or maintenance or if we have incidents, then we have the 2-way traffic. So this graphic just sort of tries to depict this for us again. And so over here, we have the eastbound with the normal condition where we have 3 lanes, but because we only have 2 receiving lanes on the bridge, we obviously close the leftbound lane. The crossovers are closed. Westbound has its 3 lane. So that's sort of the standard or normal traffic pattern. And then during periods where we need to implement and have additional capacity for eastbound, we implement 2-way. We now open that 3rd lane, 3rd highway lane. That lane goes across the crossover, and westbound is reduced to 2 lanes, and we're carrying the 3rd eastbound lane on the other bridge, and we utilize the crossover again to get them back into the 3 existing eastbound lanes that are on the eastern shore. So in this direction, we have a lane closure, closes the left lane, and only permits the 2 lanes for westbound. So of the 2 projects I just spoke about, the scope of those projects was to make things safer for workers, to reduce the setup and breakdown time for the 2-way operations. These graphics represent each of the projects. So this is the project on the eastern shore, and this is Maryland 8. The bridge is over here for the crossover, and these are the large gantries that are part of this project. So this is the western shore. We have Oceanic. The bridge is over here, and then these are the structures that are associated with the project there. So again, the projects will be replacing whatever lane use controls we had on the shore, but it also adds additional gantries so that we have advanced notification of the lane use control to get people to move over before they get to the gate system, before they get to the areas where the closures happen. The projects also obviously have signing and marking, they have electrical modifications, a lot of electrical and communications, and just your normal stormwater management, landscaping. It also has, as I talked about, a large testing and commissioning and integration piece to fit in with our existing traffic control system on the Bay Bridge. So just to go into a little bit more depth on the project elements, we have what we call the lane use control signals. So again, these are, we're calling them enhanced because they're larger. The signs themselves are 5 foot by 5 foot. We have 100 of those going in for both projects. And they will be displaying, these messages. So you're already familiar with the green arrow, the red X. The yellow occurs when you're transitioning from a green to a red. So you may or may not see that very much unless you happen to be on the bridge while we're transitioning. And then we have some spots, where we need to use this exit only sign because, we have an auxiliary lane that we have to kind of tell them what they're supposed to be using that for. This photo is from eastbound on the eastern shore. This is a new gantry, and it has the new lane use control signals in operation. So that's what they look like, and they're out there right now on a couple of the gantries. We also have dynamic message signs. So we have 12 signs going in, and they would be mounted off to the side on these gantries. They display a couple of warning messages for us to help us not have to go out and place a warning sign at the side of the road. Again, to automate the process, we took and installed those up here on the gantry next to the lane use controls. So some of these that you see with these arrows, these would be located near the crossovers to try to indicate what we want you to do when you're in that crossover area. And then this is just letting you know that there is two-way traffic on the bridge. Additional project components, we have the swing gates, the horizontal swing gates, so you can see them pictured here. These are obviously just in the retracted position, nothing deployed yet. So a photo of what it would look like when it's deployed is this is from the manufacturer cut sheet. So these are the gates, and they vary in length depending on what we need to do with them. So if we're closing a single lane, or if it's the start of a taper, it will be shorter, and then it extends out to where we are covering at least 2 lanes of closure with these gates. Also, we have some illuminated pavement markers, which are similar to the recessed pavement markers you may be familiar with that have reflectors in them. Instead of having reflectors, these are actually powered and internally illuminated, so they use LEDs to light, to be lit and provide some feedback on the lane markings out there. All right, so this photo is just to go over again sort of this condition we have right here, eastbound on the western shore. This is a normal operation, so we're not in contraflow when this photo was taken. So you have just 2 lanes available, and this is where you have all the drums that are closing off that 3rd lane. So the lane closure begins back before Oceanic, and at this point it's just keeping everyone out of that lane. And you can see in the future, when we have deployed the system, these gate arms here will be deployed, so they'll be swung out and closing off that lane. This is one of the signal gantries. There's no displays on the backside because there are no two-way traffic in this area, so you wouldn't have it. So unfortunately, in this photo, they're facing away from us, but the lane use control signals are here. This is for the way station, and this is one of those DMS signs that I talked about. And so that would be displayed above traffic, and as you approach, it would be telling you that this is a red X and this is going to be out, and physically closing the lane for us. So then when we have two-way operations in place, today all the drums are pulled off to the side, they're stored along the shoulder, that lane is open for travel, and so in the future when the system is deployed, the gates would be retracted as they are shown in this photo. Yeah.
The area to the farthest away in the picture.
Yes.
Right now, it's all nice dirt. They're leveling it out, making dirt.
Oh, I hear you.
What's it going to become?
In this section,
yes,
that was pavement removal. So that was like some of our stormwater credit. So we turned that.
That area is almost the size of a football.
That should be seeded in. We got
the picnic tables out there and some traffic.
Well, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we
could have vehicles parked there. Tractor trailers going to pull over and rest.
No, so we did not. We elected not to do that here. But I don't have the photo. But where the old plaza was, we did retain a lot of that pavement. We didn't remove as much as you might think when we're coming through and getting rid of the toll plaza. We still have the way station, so that still has lanes in there. But then we also kept space for wind conditions where we have, trucks that we have to deal with. There is some space in there, and
disables or whatever we have.
Whatever.
Yeah, there was a lot of that planning that went on to make sure we have that.
Yes. So this space is going to be seeded. The space off to the left of of this camera here will be still pavement, but it's going to be used for trucks and that kind of thing if they're put out of service by the inspection. All right, so at this point, I'm going to these are snapshots from the video that we've created, but I'm just going to sort of walk through this, the westbound, the project on the Eastern Shore, just sort of talk through what you'd be seeing at each of these gantries. So the furthest gantry out is an existing DMS, and an existing message sign that we have. And so we're using that as the first, component in the system to say, hey, there's a left lane closed with a distance. So to give you that advance.
How far is that from the bridge?
That is
Cemetery.
2 miles. Just 2 miles. 2 miles. Because Cox Creek is just before you get to that. Yep.
Well, it wasn't meant to be an interruption, but I'll throw one in. A year ago, 2 years ago, we had the impressive collection of drums along the shoulder leading up to the bridge. So if we got a big backup that ran back Castle Marina, at least the shoulder was open for fire and EMS. What provisions are you folks thinking about when it gets stacked substantially on the other side? I'm only interested in westbound on that shoulder to get our EMS equipment and fire.
Richard, you can chime in. Well, I think the year that we did that was during
The lane one.
deck.
They did. But we worked with both sides, of course. But we have it on the Eastern Shore. We have the Route 8 and 18 plan that we can always use if we need to get the emergency traffic as well as buses. But we work very closely to make sure that we can get them through, especially on the shoulders that leading up towards the bridge. But definitely the Route 8 and 18 plan.
I don't know. You're not going to like take them in and enlighten me because, Route 18 cemented up.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. The Route 18 and 18 plans are essentially relief plans that allow, in the event of emergency for 2 hours or more, that allow us to get close off some of the roads to allow emergency services to get through, as well as the buses on Route 8 to get to the schools. So we essentially closed down some areas and opened up some sites and
Yeah, I didn't know if that was reactive enough if we pulled an ambulance to just something quickly stacks up and we need to get through.
Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily have any problems. I mean, we work with
Yes, but I think 2 or 3 times last year that went into effect.
yes.
I
Yes,
do
it
remember
did.
it going into.
Yeah.
I understand when there's a plan thing and a big backup, and sometimes these things almost instantaneous.
Yeah, when they instantaneously, what you find is that Tracy and his folks and even from Antelope, they're usually on site before the traffic starts to build anyway. They're
One thing that might
really quick. Plus our BRC system with that.
One thing might help, we want to, if we do try to get to there's acts on the bridge, or accident on the bridge, the gates could be like quickly moved with that place, but emergency equipment come through. I think you're gonna have some idiots coming behind. Because we always have that, all the fire trucks and animals.
Yeah.
That being sort of a.
But there's enough, I believe they were designed with enough distance to provide for emergency service, right? I believe that was.
There's difference at the end. I mean, we'll definitely go back and take a look, just to see what's wrong there. But to your point, it's kind of like if you open them up, even though the lane use control signal will still say red X.
They drop through them all the time until they get to the barrel.
Yeah.
They can't get it further. I don't care about that. That's solid.
Yeah.
That's just color.
And that's a really important point, that we refer to this as the automated lane closure system, because one of the really key elements Jim talked about, I think 100 lane use controls. That is the primary thing that we're using to actually get people over. A lot of times people call it's the gate project, but in reality, the gates are replacing the barrels. So in your same point, like, hey, when we hit the barrels, we're done. When you hit the gates, you're going to be done.
Right now, we can move the barrel and get a fire truck around it. We can throw them up to the side, whatever, get the fire trucks and ambulance through it. But the gates, we can't. You know what I mean? They're there, and then they've got another one, they've got another one, they've got another. You can't like lift them up, with the fire truck through.
You actually, they do
It'd be nice to have like a little
manual override though. I mean, they do have a manual, I mean, I'm not saying you want to, but I mean,
Right.
if you would the barrels, they do have a manual override.
So just.
I need to add like a little button, like one place right behind you, but it's, that's just way too much. There more incidents happen out there, it's not really.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
We'll definitely go back and check on that.
Just
So you keep some gates and stop.
Yes.
Sounds like you need.
Yes, we'll have, it does have some, you know, some features for, you know, being resilient when it gets struck. And we have replacements as well. All right, so moving down the road, getting closer to the bridge, the next thing you'll come across the first lane use control signal gantry. So this is the area where we have an auxiliary lane, which is the exit here. So we'll be having one of those messages over top of that lane that it's for the exit only. You'll come across a yellow X, which is letting you know that that lane closes. And then you should be in the lanes with the green arrows. This next gantry would have the same display as the previous one, and then get right before Maryland 8, you'd come across the red X, which at that point you're supposed to vacate the lane. The lane use controls signals are regulatory, so that's what you know, by the rules of the road, that's what you would have to obey. And so that's what.
You bring up a good point there, because I've heard people tell me that when you have these lane closures and there's merging, you're allowed to go all the way to the end and merge in. Are you telling me the first red X, if you cross underneath the first red X, that's a violation?
That's right.
That's something we need to get out there, because I'm telling you, people ride all the way down. And what I think what slows traffic down more than anything else is the merging process.
Right. Yeah. So yes, you know, the red X indicates that the lane is closed. You have to vacate. So that is going to be part of our education and outreach.
And part of your
exactly what, you know,
your
obeying.
police need to sit right at the first X.
That's right.
Honestly, because I guarantee you that'll work.
It's a cooperative effort on that, and yeah, we're going to pay attention to that.
I think miles will be a green area and it's red, they don't care until you get to a barrel or a wall or something. And say, oh,
Couple tickets.
shame. That's what jams everything up. They all fly up there and all of a sudden they're trying to get everywhere. And the next person gets mad because he should have paid attention back there a mile if the X was back there. I did, he did. Yeah. Block me man.
Right.
But then he's always coming to a stop, so he's got to get you to stop, and then you got to stop. It don't matter.
Right. So then we have a sign. This is what's just replacing what was already out there. It's the flashing beacons and warning you that there's two-way traffic on the bridge. Then we get to the condition where we have one of the EMS warning signs, as well as the lane use controls, again, with the red X. Again, you should be vacating the lanes. We still have, this is the ramp, the entrance ramp from Maryland 8 coming on, but we still have not gotten to the gates yet to this point. But now there will be another gantry you pass under, and then now we're at the gates. So because this is a left lane closed, this is a two-way condition, you know, your normal evening condition. The gates are deployed. They're extending to close that left lane physically, which the lane use controls should have done already. And then on the right here, you can see another gate that is retracted. So this is not in use, so it's retracted and off to the side, and this set of gates on the left is deployed. Okay, then we get to the crossover area, and again, we have the left lane closed, so this gate is out. We've got the corresponding red X's letting you know that you're not to be in that area, and then the green arrows pass you on to the westbound bridge. So now this, we flipped directions, so now we're an eastbound vehicle traveling, an eastbound vehicle, but we're on the westbound lane or westbound bridge, and we're in this lane here. So as you've come off the bridge, this is the first gantry you'll be coming across. You'll have these indications will be the same indications you'll have seen the whole way across the bridge. We're introducing the DMS to show you what we want you to do within the crossover. Then we get to the crossover. We have the red X's over here to keep you from going into westbound, we've got an oversized static keep right sign. We've got the DMS sign. We have your green arrow showing you once you're over in this direction. And then we have those illuminated pavement markings. And this is the area where today you have a whole bunch of drones to do that. So this is the area where we're trying to put as much in there to get as much feedback and direction to motorists as we can and where we want them to be in this area.
That's the pink marks all over the highway?
The pink marks?
Somebody's spray painted all over it for.
Yeah, we've been locating. So
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my run through of the automated lane closure system. If there's any additional questions?
Is this online?
This presentation is not online.
It'll be part of the minutes.
Yeah, we'll be posting.
Is there a NASA command center for, how many people does it take to keep all that going? It must be, is it going to be here in this building where somebody's sitting there with the controls?
It's funny you mentioned that, Nicole. I'm going to get to that in just a minute.
Oh, okay. That must be impressive. Thank you.
We're looking for a few good minutes.
Gate operator.
What are you doing in your spare time? Have someone on the 3 to 11 shift if you're free.
Jim, maybe if you could go back to the slide that had the actual picture in the field. I just want to, you talked about the gate. Yeah, there you go. The gates on both sides. Just for all of the members to understand, Jim walked through what we'll call the standard two-way operation, what you're used to in the afternoons nearly every day, the most common one. But the gates are on both sides of the road, and the lane use signals, we'll see them on both sides of the gantries at certain locations because they can handle every configuration that we run here regularly. So it's not just that we're eliminating the barrels for that most common configuration, but if we have a bridge inspection and need to do a right lane closure, there's a configuration for that. If you need to do a nighttime two-way operation on the South Bridge, the system can do that. So that's why when you're coming through, you're seeing gates on both sides of the roads. Some of them will be deployed like the Western Shore in the mode where you're not running two-way. They're going to be deployed open as the standard, while the Eastern Shore closed as the standard. And so depending on the configuration, there's some gates that are going to be standard open and some standard closed.
Yeah. Anything else? Very good presentation.
Yeah, nice. And one more thing, probably move on, not for you, Jim.
She's ready.
Waiting here, I believe we have, okay, we do have Delegate Heather Bagnall or someone from her office is on the line. Delegate Sales, District Meeting 33. So I'm not sure if she has anything she'd like to say or her staff. Melissa's going to try to unmute. So.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm literally in the car. I just had one question going back to the final slide. So there's not going to be any sort of physical barrier when they're rerouting back into the traffic from the contraflow lane. Is that correct? That it's signs and markings on the road, but no physical barrier.
So signs, signals, markings, gate arms, but the idea was to be able to effectuate a lane closure as quickly as possible. And the way to do that was to not have anything that needed someone to get out there and do it physically. So there are no devices.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up? If I'm understanding that lane, though, if they make an error, that lane would be closed to oncoming traffic because they've already been routed out of that lane due to contraflow. Is that correct? So if somebody makes a mistake, there's not cars coming head on, so that we can figure out how to fix it.
They would hit the gate arm that is deployed and shown in the one crossover photo. They would essentially run into the back of that. So they would drive under, red X, and then there's a painted
The painted
one-way
on the-
arrow. So
Perfect, thank you. So it's pretty error-proof at this point.
yeah,
Is it just one red X that you on the Gantries?
Okay. Anything else?
No, I really appreciate all your work on this. I know how hard and diligently you all have been working to try and address this and move this project along. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Very in-depth and very nice presentation. So, for next unfinished business, first item is return short of Will Pines. Should take that over.
So I'm actually going to turn it over to SHA in a moment. I think we've addressed the variable message location map. That was an item that was for us. The link for the location on NGIS is there, but as Jason mentioned, they'll follow up with the hard copy map of that. And I think the other two items were with MDOT.SHA, so I'll turn it over to Andre.
Yeah, we got a couple of things here. As I was said earlier, we had a active survey in place right now, and we got to date about over 1,500 responses. And certainly, as we collect them, we're going to try to look at them to help ourselves with the active community, trying to highlight what we can do short-term, mid-term, and also long-term, because we not quite get some things.
This is for the bottleneck community for traffic issues.
Yes, traffic bottleneck, correct. Okay. And we do intend to have the natural, signal installed at every the floodplain at St. Marcus. We have that. We expect to have that done this at the offline there. Not this offline, but anytime after July. Okay. So that's going to help with the issues. Traffic and so forth. So we do expect to have that installed exactly next year. And again, we did do some patching on that way on the road. Once the actual construction is done, we're going to go back and we're going to mill the pave. And ultimately, as I was saying, we're going to add a chart patrol to kind of control all week long from 5 a.m. directly 9 p.m. Any issues with accidents and so forth like that will be actually helpful. And we do expect to have the signage that line that would encourage traffic to stay on 50 and try to keep as much as traffic as we can off the Broadneck area. Okay. And I believe that was the extent of what updates I think that I had. And also, actually, we're constantly looking at the Maryland 214 to 97, so trying to make sure that we can look at what type of options, solution, active mode that we can try to use what we call the shoulders to help us with as the back up the traffic congestion really. So that's actually not done, it's actually ongoing, but we certainly looking to use that to actually help us there. Okay. And I believe that was the extent of my items, if I'm not wrong.
No, I think you got them all.
Thank you. So thank you. Anyone have anything else other than that?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure, you can.
Thank you. Can you just tell me about the St. Margaret light and what is that?
But the place, we're going to have that installed anytime after July, and probably by spring of next year.
In July of this year?
Yes.
Until
Spring.
why such a large?
Because as the engineering design, the surveying, and all that takes time, really. Okay, so Bush is standard, the biggest standard.
Okay, thank you.
So
Can I turn in so the request for please? It's a question for Will.
Well, sure, go ahead.
I've had several conversations with people on my, they want to know what's happening with the Bay Bridge, meaning the NEPA study, tier 2, which I've said, I don't know whether funds have been approved and how that's going to happen, or even the tier 2 study has been approved, because we've heard nothing. Any update on that?
Sure. And I tried to intro it at a high level, knowing that this would come. Tier 1 is really close.
Yes,
We're
I told them that.
finalizing some review activities with Federal Highway. I talked to Todd Mon a couple weeks back saying we think it's going to be April, getting close on it. So that we'll have a record of decision on tier 1. As we talked about in past meetings, the tier 1 defined the selected corridor alternative. From there, the tier 2 would refine where the specific alignment would be, look at what type of actual solutions there could be for the crossing itself, whether that be the question that was asked earlier, whether it be a completely new replacement or leveraging portions of the existing bridge. All of those alternatives would be evaluated in tier 2. The funding for tier 2, right now, we are like full court press in evaluating all the options that can be considered. Right now, the infrastructure bill, some people call it the bipartisan infrastructure law. Some people call it IIJA, I forget what that acronym is, but anyway, the bottom line is we're trying to seek federal funding as one possible avenue. We are looking at some appropriations of federal funds. And then obviously if federal funding wasn't an option, we would have to look at what state funding options are available. The best step that would help advance it, obviously the support letters have been really helpful. The CTP priority letters are typically submitted in early April 1st. And so we would be looking at what the counties send us as their priorities. Obviously, that would influence funding for a tier 2 study if the counties all supported that. So right now, we have not identified the funding for tier 2. We got to finish the tier 1. That's imminent, and we're pursuing all the options that we can to get.
Where does funding come from if it's approval for the tier 2 study?
Well, that could be federal funding. Again, it could be funding either from IIJA funds or appropriations. And then, obviously MDTA, most of our projects are funded exclusively from our toll revenues. And that would be state funding that we would apply to it, if it gets funded as a priority project.
Who makes the final decision on whether to pursue the tier 2?
Please. Well, so the MDTA board has the fiduciary responsibility of making financial decisions for the authority. They would, at our June board meeting, our draft CPP would be approved, and that's where our collection of projects are typically included from CTP priorities. Staff would certainly help influence recommendations there, governor's office, our general assembly members, and obviously the priority letters from the counties all kind of congealed to give us support behind how to develop CTP and where the statewide priorities are.
Thank you. I'll try to get this all back to them.
Sure.
Robert?
Yeah. One of the issues I've had a difficult time understanding and being able to explain to community members is that I believe in prior discussions here at the BRAG, we understood that the tier 1 study could only address a third span. And when it was asked, could it address a replacement, I perceived the answer to be no. And yet, where we are now with the support from Queen Anne's, certainly the community and other communities, it appears that the Tier 1 may go forward to address a replacement rather than a third span. Am I seeing this thing wrong? I'm having a hard time explaining it.
So, our secretary, our now current board chairman, he said previously that you never heard out of the MDTA's lips.
I remember Jim saying that.
So, but sort of semantics here.
Yeah.
The Tier 1 study looked at 14 corridors up and down the bay. And let's theoretically say that there was a corridor that was picked crossing and from Baltimore County over to or wherever, right? That would have logically been a third span. So I can certainly understand why many individuals would have assumed that a third span was implied by the nature of the study. However, the corridor, the selected corridor alternative, which we expect will be in the record of decision, the corridor 7, is at the existing location, but it's a 2-mile wide swath. It's not the baseline of our highway. It can be to the north, to the south. It's based on minimizing impacts to the environment, cultural resources, making sure we're trying to minimize impacts to parklands, you name it. That study is going to be a multi-year effort that's going to look at impacts on a variety of different levels. And so that study would make the decision on, is a third span appropriate, or is it appropriate to build a replacement structure for the existing? So as again, our chairman has said many times, our MDTA board chairman, that is, we can't predispose that decision. That's how NEPA works. We need to make sure that we give a fair shake to all of the alternatives and really fully vet the options. But certainly the community's support for replacement alternatives would be an important consideration in the development of that Tier 2 study. So we can't commit today that it's going to be an entirely new bridge, knock down the old ones, or any kind of decisions like that. That will be completed in the Tier 2 study. However, I can say we didn't say it was going to definitively be a third span because we don't know that ourselves. That's what the study is. Does that help, Jack?
Kind of. I'm still trying to get to.
Everybody wants a simple answer of it's going to be a third span or it's going to be.
I know.
We just can't. Yeah. That's what the study's going to tell.
Okay.
And that's why the study's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And so it's a new bridge, it's going to take a while. So that being said, the congestion that goes on, and I'm going to speak, even though I'm a Queen Anne's County Commissioner, I want to speak to the Broadneck issues with the traffic on Thursday, Friday, now Saturday mornings and Sundays sometimes, depending on how bad, it gets. You put out a survey asking about, I think it was making it one-way. You're going to do a loop one-way with the access roads. And I guess my question is, merging traffic. Merging traffic slows down all traffic. Is that a fair assumption?
That's what happens at Route 8.
Well, I'm just saying merging traffic. I know we can't close any exits and say, well, you live here, you can drive on it. We've had the Attorney General say that, if you can't show disparity to one, own it, don't own it, tourist, somebody else from somewhere else in the state using a road. But it doesn't say that you can't close down the entire ramp for a safety issue. Is that a fair assumption? That safety issues are... Okay, let me try to put it like this to help a little bit. We received several suggestions, ideas, or options where that some folks said that, can we just prevent cars from going down at the Broadneck? Some said, can we do like a grant immediately? Some are saying that we just put up a gate and stop traffic during certain times of the day. A lot of options, a lot of ideas, a lot of comments. But what we want to try to do is review the results from the survey, be able to work with the group and try to assess which option best work for all, okay? At this point, we don't have it. We got options, but we don't got to have that stacked support of everybody yet.
Well, I guess to that point, I mean, I think a more meaningful survey for the Broad Neck Peninsula would be if the ramp to 50 eastbound is closed, would you have a problem with that? Because I got to believe the majority of the Broad Neck Peninsula does not travel over the Bay Bridge and does not use that ramp. Yeah. But they are the bearers of all that traffic that goes through here. And everybody knows the minute we get a mile backup, they jump on the access roads. And that's what's, and I don't know how many people live. I'd like to know how many people live in the Broad Neck Peninsula from Cape St. Clair to the bridge, because they're the ones bearing that brunt. And to me, even if you say I'm going to close down the bridge and those message boards that we have everywhere, it says no access to Route 50 East at that location, you know, it's going to take a while for the public to get used to it. But if you do it on Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, and Saturday mornings, I think that allows people from Broad Neck, you know, the peninsula, to get out and move about. Because we have the same problem on Sunday nights on Route 8, but I think yours is more localized because more people come from the eastern shore to the western shore than from the Broad Neck Peninsula to the eastern shore.
We are having traffic models analyzed for that area to help us with some concept. And we have certainly heard, we were talked about some options that sound like that, okay? If not nailed down, because certainly we owe it to the group to meet with them, to share with them, because ultimately I want to make sure that it works for everyone. The businesses, community, they are responsible for that. But we did hear that, and we are going to look at that, but I can't answer that tonight.
I understand, but that's why I'm putting it out there, because I know that merging, when that traffic comes down that ramp, it slows down all the traffic.
Actually, I'll be frank, I drove this area for about the last hour and a half before I ate at Greg ate. But I drove this area just to confirm what I heard from the group at the emails. And some of the options that they offered kind of makes sense. To a certain extent, we need to look into it more. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can answer that question because we tried at least 12 months ago to get approval to close the ramp on Oceanic on the south side that brings traffic from the service road back onto Route 50 East. We were told that we could not do it because the feds would.
No, that was closer to through traffic. You need to close it to all traffic. It has to be a safety issue.
No, the point is that if you're paying if taxpayers are paying federal taxes on these roadways, the feds would not let us shut any ramp down for half a day, a full day, because we paid the taxes.
Well, I think there's a misunderstanding there, because we just heard Richard say where there's a Route 18 plan that at any given time they can close all the ramps. And it's denying access to everybody, not just a group of people.
Well, let's say there's a bomb, you know, and you can close all the ramps if there's a reason like that, but just to accommodate this traffic, if they won't let us do it.
Just can I correct one point on the Route 8 plan? The Route 8 plan is doing if you're going westbound, it's doing a right lane closure from 50 so that the ramp entrance can get on without the interference of main line. You're not closed. Main line is still open. The ramp is open.
Being what?
Meaning US 50.
Okay. Yeah.
You're doing a right lane closure, so you still have the two lanes open. But by closing the right lane, the ramp is able to directly enter into the closed lane that's upstream of that. So there's
to get all that traffic off those roads.
The difference in this scenario between the Route 8 closure and what you're saying is you're completely denying that access. Well, we're not closing 50. We're not closing the ramp. We're limiting one lane so that the ramp is able to actually enter. So it's a different apples and oranges. That's all I'm trying.
Well, maybe this was two different types of oranges. Because I know the Naval Academy has football games. The Naval Academy has football games. They close the ramps on Route Boulevard throughout 50 East. They close them. I see the state police, they put the cones out, they block those ramps. So you can't say that you can't do it, because if it's a safety issue, I think that you can do it. and it warrants somebody looking into that. So, I'm just looking for solutions to keep the traffic flowing.
We have about over 1,500 results on the survey. And I'm not even going to count the emails. Okay. I think what you was suggesting was we didn't heard it already, so we're going to look at all of it, okay? Because it is no doubt that there's an issue with traffic hopping off of the main line, hopping on that service road. We got to make it unattractive for them to do that. Okay. We got to discourage that type of behavior to take advantage of shortcuts. Okay. Because it's not working. Okay? And I can tell you right now, but I can't go in the site every 1,500 surveys or something like that. But certainly, what I heard here tonight is not foreign to me. I think I've seen or heard probably a lot of it. So, but again, we're going to try to work with the group, try to make sure that we can pick the viable options that are going to work for all.
Andre, when are you going to close off the survey, and when do you think you'll have some preliminary results to start to let the community chew on to how's this going to play out?
When it ends, I don't necessarily have that tonight, but I can certainly make sure you have that, right? But again, we want to try to make sure that whatever we do is going to be the best possible solution or option for us to do, okay? And that we can possibly kind of sustain it, really, because I drove out here for about the last hour and a half prior to dinner, and I believe that some of the solutions or options that I read or that I believe that I heard, some of them is possible, but I can't answer that now. Okay.
All right.
Can't answer that now.
So, try to pin you down one more time. You don't have a good one, and like the survey will be done and we'll have preliminary results by the end of the year.
I don't have the exact date, and I don't want to say it now if I'm wrong, but I will make sure, Mr. Cole, you will certainly hear from me.
No, I'm just curious. Because, again,
you're fine.
We're conduits, and so if I go back.
Yeah. And I'm going to make sure that what I share is accurate. Okay, that's all.
You're wrong, you're Tim.
If I'm wrong, Tim Smith.
I just, for the record, SHA eats crab cakes, we eat McDonald's.
Moving on to new business. First item, the forthcoming annual report. A reminder for House Bill 56, BRAG is required to submit an annual report on or before July 1st that details the activities of the BRAG the preceding year. Members should have received a copy of this last year's report prior to this meeting. We'll also send it out in minutes and stuff. Our reports anticipate to follow a similar structure and draft will be circulated to members to review and comment once it is prepared. Now I give the floor to the group for discussion. We'll have one discussion. So I think it'd be better to have this discussion after the report's sent out probably than we discuss it then probably the best. Now we have our AOC presentation. Presentation of Bay Bridge operations from Joe Segale.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
MDTA.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And this is the really cool part. Talk about some really cool stuff. Nicole mentioned, the NASA Operations Center. Well, it's kind of a mini inform. But before I start, obviously, I wanted to point out what you had stated, sir, about that closeness you had seen and information. That's all part of Director TJ Bathurst, MDTA, and Director of Mobility Operations, Jason at SHA. They're literally attached at the hip. If you look there, they're sitting there with each other. And it is truly because of their partnership and their leadership and their teams.
It's an obvious kind of improvement in, long time prior stuff, but there seems to be a really close connection between operations and communications.
And that's exactly.
Thank you, guys. Really.
Absolutely. That's what we're focused on, about optimization of what we have and how we can work with what we have better. So you'll see here a picture, and even geographically, it is in this building, in the MDTA Police Administrative Building. In fact, the Authority Operations Center, or AOC as I'll refer to it for South, is in where the original MDTA Police Dispatch room was. And that's all been consolidated to Point Breeze and Dundalk, Maryland, I'll get to in a moment. But there's two of our operators, Clyde and Janet, hard at work. And on their computer screens, you will see some of the systems that I'm going to talk about that they use that are in their toolbox each and every day to help make sure that things are running as efficiently and effectively and safely as possible here at the bridge. And they're surrounded with screens, much like you see here, with camera images up that rotate, and they can focus in and zoom in on things as needed. So a little snapshot of what's here and in the building below us. Next slide, please. So just a little bit on the mission and the vision here, just to kind of go over how that aligns with everything we're doing, and MDOT being that transportation customer-driven leader for safe and sustainable, intelligent, and exceptional transportation solutions to connect people to life's opportunities. Our vision here at the MDTA is to improve the quality of life and create time for our customers we serve by revolutionizing customer service, delivering premium transportation alternatives, and providing safer, faster, more reliable driving experiences. And our purpose here at the MDTA, with our acronym, M for maximizing safety and reliability, D for delivering excellent customer service, T for transforming the workforce of tomorrow, and A for advancing the future of transportation. And truly, the AOC South here is our command and control center here at the facility at Richard Yaramillo, our facility administrator. His facility, TJ staffs and operates the authority center here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next slide, please. So just to break it up a little bit, we do have two operations centers for the Maryland Transportation Authority. AOC South covers the William Preston Lane Jr. Memorial Bridge, Bay Bridge, as well as the Harry W. Nice Thomas Mack Middleton Bridge in southern Maryland and Charles County that is currently in its construction and replacement. Our AOC Central covers the rest of our facilities, and that, again, that's at Point Breeze and Dundalk in Baltimore, Maryland, and that is responsible for overseeing operations for our Fort McHenry and Baltimore Harbor tunnels, our Francis Scott Key Bridge on I-695, JFK Highway points north of Baltimore and north to Delaware, to include the Miller D. Tidings Bridge on I-95, as well as the Thomas J. Hayden Bridge on US 40 going from Hartford to Cecil counties. It also has responsibility for our inter-county connector, Maryland 200, tying US 1 and Laurel over to I-370 in Montgomery counties. Next slide. So a little bit of the history, and a lot of this complements Jim's presentation as well too, and a little bit of the history when we're talking about the automatic lane closure system that's going in. The history of the AOC South. It was formally opened in 2004 here and started with contractual phone service for Bay Bridge operations on the weekends. In fact, in an early part of my career, and Jason's as well, when I was with SHA, we had what we call Reach the Beach. We had SHA and MDTA staff working here out of that same room downstairs, juggling the radio, sending patrol units to Kent Narrows and to the bridge, working the lights at 213, 404, and Outlet Center. You know, there's a lot of, manual work that went into everything today to now the automated system that we have today. It's amazing to see the evolution, and I'll talk about that with our baseband operations as well in a second. So then when in 2004, it had one hot four, what we call a supervisor, a highway operations technician supervisor, and two operators, and ran Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. 2005, because it was so important, because of such a need and such a critical infrastructure and system that was here, began 24/7 on Memorial Day weekend. with 6 public information assistants, our baseband operators, I'll refer to a few more times in the presentation, and our IVR, our voice, integrated voice response system, our phone line, and 9 highway operations technicians, our dispatchers that are monitoring road conditions and traffic and evaluating conditions and reporting those. Next slide. So ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems, they're the devices, and those are what we call our tools in our toolbox within incident management and operations of both MDTA and state highway. There's a lot of similarities in the same operation centers Jason has around the state in Baltimore, Washington, and Frederick. So ATMS, we share at MDTA and the Maryland State Highway Administration an advanced traffic management system or software, depending on how the acronym is used. And in that is a homegrown 20-plus year computer program in which we enter incident information, events, crashes, disabled motorists, things, disruptions that happen along our roadway system, and is tracked and shared. The great thing about it for continuity is that anything that's entered here at AOC South, AOC Central can see in Baltimore, as well as Jason's operations centers in his regions and his statewide operations center in Hanover, Maryland at BWI Airport. We can situationally see and work together and work on what's going on, see the same incidents. We share the same ITS devices and MDTA's lane control use signals that I'll talk about in a second are very specific to us. But the other things like DMS signs shared and we can communicate with, CCTV cameras shared and we can communicate with. And that's where I start to talk about some of the other ITS devices we have. DMS, dynamic message signs, the large ones over the roadways, some of the medium-sized ones, pedestal mounted you may see on the Eastern Shore, as well as what we call portable dynamic message signs or changeable message signs, depending on the nomenclature that SHA deploys annually that we've talked about here as part of that plan for seasonal beach traffic. I don't even want to say beach traffic anymore. Seasonal traffic points east and or north. We've been finding not everyone is traveling US 50 for peak travel season is actually going to the beaches. CCTV cameras, they point, they tilt, they zoom, they move around. That's great. One of the other things we've done at MDTA is take a tool out of SHA's toolbox, and that is put them on our emergency patrol vehicles, what we call our vehicle recovery units. TJ has 2 of them getting outfitted right now, and the remaining 30 around our facilities in the state will get them next. Jason's entire chart fleet has them. They will have a mobile camera on them that the operators within their operation centers respectively can pan, tilt, and zoom. This evolved from an in-dash camera that only showed forward-facing. But the incident management community, if one of our vehicle recovery patrols or one of Jason's chart emergency patrols are on scene, they see the back of the incident downstream. So by the time they're providing effective traffic control, they're looking at the back of a fire engine or the back of a law enforcement vehicle. So being able to have a controllable camera, we can now see the other side of the roadway in the opposing direction. We can see upstream of what we call our queue or our traffic backups. And if a picture says 1,000 words, the video says 1,000,000, and we can situationally see what's going on at any time with the vehicle. And if needed, another vehicle can come and actually have eyes on, so the operations center, or Will or Andre or I don't need to call TJ and Jason constantly at what's going on. We can actually see that because we integrate that video into other mechanisms I'll talk about. And one very legacy but still reliable tool is our highway advisory radios. They work. It's probably one of the tools we've kept in this region for many needs, especially for evacuations and emergencies and those security threats that are there, as other DOTs around the nation and other parts of state highway have sunsetted their highway advisory radios. Next slide, please. Jim talked about a lot of the lane use signals that are going in as part of the new project and the automatic lane closure system. Well, of course, as you drive over the bridge, you see that we do have those now, and those are managed and controlled. I'll show a slide in a minute that kind of shows what that program looks like. And our operators are responsible for deploying the closure plans as needed. They actually go into it, they know what needs to be closed, which lane it is, which direction, and they program it in the system. They hit enter, and then it starts
to close the lane with red X's and/or starts to bring the lanes back with green arrow. So very, very oversimplified it a little bit, but it's a really, really amazing electronic system that they have to quickly deploy that for safety and emergencies as needed, as well as two-way operations. Baseband. Baseband really has evolved in my career and over the last 20 years, having a room full of our team members that were physically in the phone, calling in and leaving voice messages that folks, when they called into the baseband operations, would hear and listen to. That IVR system is now automated. Our dispatchers in here in AOC South can open up the program. They can type in what message needs to go in there, and that's how we can put out our queues, our delays, our backups, our incident information, and that really has evolved. We do, in just a little bit of history, have one baseband operator in the official baseband operator classification left here at AOC South. Everyone else is a highway operations technician as we've evolved into that for our traffic management. Security and incident detection cameras. See all the cameras that we do have. One of the things that we have here in the cameras on the bridge is to help complement that is FLIR, forward-looking infrared. You may be very familiar with that with its civilian law enforcement and military uses through many decades now. But one of the great things about FLIR and an important piece of infrastructure like our bridge is that we can help see through smoke, fog, haze, and other atmospheric obscurants that are out there better than a visible light camera can. So we have that in our technology and mixed in with our toolbox for security and incident detection. Vehicle stops, vehicle breaks down, crash occurs on the roadway, detects in the image, the operator can see that and hone in on it. So those are some other tools that are in our toolbox. VidSys, that's another system that you saw on the first, that was up on one of the screens in the very first slide in the operations center. And that is our security and information management system for our door alarms, building access, panic alarms over on the south side, because we're on the north side. Our south side at Richards Administration Building has our Easy Pass customer service center in it. And of course, there's a transactional thing going on there. There are panic alarms so that our operations center can be notified and we can have our MDTA police quickly and rapidly respond to emergencies as needed. But they also have proximity entry and door control. They joked with me one day. They're like, hey, we can lock you out of coming here, Joe. If we see you in the parking lot, we'll let you in. So it's kind of fun, but really important for security. And Luft. Luft is the brand and manufacturer that we've gone to over the last decade or more at State Highway and MDTA for our RWIS, our Road Weather Information Systems. Whether they're the pucks that are in the roadway that tell you road temperatures, whether they're the non-invasive detectors that are shooting down on the roadway to give you temperature on the road and the pavement, as well as the air, salinity, moisture, all kinds of very amazing stuff. But more importantly, with this piece of infrastructure, get my bearings right. Anemometers, the anemometer for wind speed, that goes through that system as well too. Next slide.
Where is the anemometer located again? I thought you said W37. I must have heard that incorrectly.
Tell me again.
They're on N14 on the Park Bridge.
N14?
Yeah, they're currently temporarily until we get to N13.
And roughly how high is that off the water?
Oh, off the water?
Over 180 feet.
Yeah, it's over 180. So I think that we had.
So it's up at the top of the bridge.
Like 10 to 20.
Yeah. I'm just going air gap from the water to the water.
Is 180 to the top, and then we went another 30 plus. Does that sound about right, Jim? 35, 40 above that. We're trying to get the highest. I'm sorry.
You said N17.
No, N14 temporarily, but our permanent home for that is N13 once we get that LUS in place.
The one that is on the website, I think, is 31.
Oh, that's on the website is yes, 31.
31, which is the suspension.
But what's making the decisions on when is N14?
Not only that,
No,
the information flow.
they use the information from all of them.
Oh, yeah, we use all of them to make a determination.
The 30, or the Pier 31, one on the website, that's, I sent you the exact location. It's like above the deck a little bit on the anchorage, I believe is what you did. Yeah, it's that. That was about 190.
Do you make any discrimination by direction? Because obviously head-on winds are less.
We rarely, it's typically the blows are all out of the north. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically a front comes through and the big winds are out of the north or northeast or northwest. It's either coming up and down the bay. You rarely get heavy winds east-west.
Our southern winds are most dangerous. The most dangerous are the ones that are usually creating more of a problem for us.
Just curiosity why, because I always think of the northern, at least just the real puffy, stronger breezes after the fronts come through.
Yeah, additionally, our southern winds tend to be more radical.
I mean, look, just seeing the data ourselves, the winds are changing all the time out here. You know, there's a saying, changing with the winds. It's kind of, the reality is we're not, when we have high wind periods, 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, we're not sitting there trying to guess like, well, it's a forward-facing wind, so that's going with traffic, and we think we're good. No, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we maintain safe conditions out here. I could send you dozens of videos of trucks that have been blown over from winds. It's just, and we've had it happen on our own facilities. It's a safety measure that we have to do. We're not second-guessing the direction and all that. Our wind, we follow our wind.
So it's a velocity issue, not a direction issue.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the most important thing though is we have two bridges. So remember, in certain winds, depending which direction, one bridge could have a higher reading.
Right, if it's coming up from the south, the eastbound's going to get the.
And the thing is that you got to look at the geometry of the Bay Bridge, where it's located now. Same issue with Susquehanna Bridge. All that wind comes from a wide area into an narrow.
I get that Venturi effect.
Exactly, and and that's why I said the winds are such a problem when it comes from the south.
It just will. I make them crazy sometimes because I'm standing down here and looking and the trees aren't moving and there's a wind advisory and I'm like, so it's just been interesting to try to understand.
But it's 100. Tell me if I'm right. Every time I've sent you a snapshot.
No, I was
showing
I'm not ever gonna. Yeah, I get it.
That the winds were too hot.
I just find it interesting to guess and to try to understand how that element, because typically that's what happens. You get the Friday, everything's great, and then all of a sudden, wind advisory. So, you get no contraflow and things are backed up to Annapolis and it's I wish the winds wouldn't blow on Fridays or Thursdays.
That's a complaint department.
It's a good reason to build a low-profile bridge. Or a tunnel.
Thank you.
Remember, Paul, actually, I think I remember the most recent time that we had that wind. I was actually here in the building and I was having a conversation with TJ and our operators turned around and looked at me. They're like, hey, I don't need to call you. We're notifying you about the wind speeds. And we're going, and I looked out the window and didn't see anything. Then I started looking at the systems myself and multiple layers of our system for redundancy all showed that was the wind speed across the bay. And,
Is the wind speed issue, I'm going to ask a stupid question. You're concerned that in contraflow, it'll blow a car into the other lane and have a head-on collision? Is that the gist of it?
These wind speeds are not just applied at the Bay Bridge.
No.
They're applied at all of our structures.
I understand. I'm just saying, but that's what we're trying to avoid.
That's why we phase it as, you see RVs and unloaded tractor trailers. Right. Then it includes all commercial vehicles and then, yes, but
it sounds like you pick all the trucks, commercial vehicles, but the cars and pickups, that isn't a major concern?
No, because of their weight and their proximity to the ground until we get to a certain.
So I guess my question is, if I'm traveling eastbound, and I'm in a car, and I'm in the left lane traveling eastbound, and there's a tractor trailer in the right lane, and the wind's blowing out of the south, are we concerned about that truck being blown over on top of that car?
No. Tractor trailers on your right.
Right. I'm just saying, because you got the same thing coming on the westbound bridge. If there's 3 vehicles abreast, and one of them's a tractor trailer, and we're not concerned, you know, I mean, I'm sure we're concerned, but I guess I struggle to say, why do we close contraflow, but yet we allow side-by-side cars moving if we're worried about the wind moving a vehicle?
Let me kind of put it this way.
Okay.
Have you gotten questions about the safety of contraflow during normal conditions?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I have too, regularly, that people will say, well, how many head-ons have you had? Why are you letting this happen? And we even were asked by the BRAG at one meeting to provide data on head-on incidents. And while they're relatively rare, we certainly are not going to knowingly push a condition that people allege is unsafe. Some people allege is unsafe even on normal conditions, and then put them out there with 30-mile-an-hour winds, changing directions, blowing all over the place, and have a head-on happen.
Okay, so with that being said, if we had high wind speeds and light traffic moving westbound, could we close down that center lane as a buffer? Just like I think we should do when it's light rain and allow contraflow. I mean, you remember those Fridays in the past when it's raining, a holiday weekend, and it's backed up all the way to 214, and you come up here and there's a light drizzle and there's, you know, 2 cars coming westbound. And, you know, to me, it just seems like, why don't we implement a buffer? You know, there's have the center lane as access both ways.
So first, let me go back to your original thing. There's some stupid question because I'm really out of the room. So and I'm going to answer this gently, so be careful with me because I know where you're heading with this. Okay. We do close that buffer lane occasionally on westbound for winds.
Okay.
Very different from closing that for rain. Okay. But we do occasionally close that lane down, lane 2, for a buffer based on the wind conditions and sometimes that direction.
Okay. I just know when I start texting Sean, go close that middle lane down, Sean. Come on.
I usually wait a couple hours for it.
It's clear. And I think, like, so what we just in general with contraflow, right? We expect to have this summer, as we did last summer, simultaneous eastbound and westbound backups. And you guys have talked about at other meetings where we had to come in and out of contraflow multiple times to try to, okay, it's backing up eastbound, the westbound, and we try to manage that. Going to one lane westbound, there's not that many,
when there's traffic like that. I get it.
There's not that many points though where a single lane during normal peak periods is sufficient to where we're not going to back up westbound, then they're going to be on your side.
I think Thursday night, Friday night after 7 o'clock, I think that would be a situation where it would warrant it.
Yeah, so what I think Richard's trying to get at, I just didn't want your takeaway to be that we could do a buffer lane all the time.
And that's why I was answering like that, because I mean, there's a capacity volume issue, and then there's a safety efficiency flow, and so it's all a balance.
And that's why we talk about it. There's no rock unturned. It's what we can go back to the public with.
Right. Yeah, like Richard's saying, we can explore the buffer lane if the volume's westbound, because one of the things that we've been trying not to do is back up westbound concurrently with eastbound so much that the side roads are backed up both ways and we can't get a fire truck to the bridge in either direction. Right? We got to manage emergency response. So it's a balancing act.
That's why we need that rod tomorrow.
That's
I think get back before he falls people.
Oh, yeah, no, thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks. Good conversation as we talk about that and how we apply our test of reasonableness and risk management into our day-to-day operational decisions. All right, no MDOT employees can answer this. What are the seagulls' names?
Really, Sean? I'll take that.
You know what? Maybe we do that for 2022.
Otis.
Otis and
is it Spike?
Spike, it is. Bingo. Outstanding. Spike.
Been around.
No, that's awesome. Outstanding. Well done. No, Executive Director Hines mentioned we talk about our branding and our go home. Better go home. Go early, stay late. And part of that other branding is also, part of our baseband and our baybridge.com website, and going there as well as the chart website, that it's all inclusive of our traffic conditions. So little branding there. Next slide. But to talk about baseband, as we've mentioned, since 2005, and I'll go through an itemized list here in a second, was just volume-wise, 16 million baseband calls. That we are touching the public and having a mechanism to communicate with our motoring public. Commissioner Moran?
2005 wasn't that when the redecking was still going on?
The overlay project was in that neighborhood, the redecking.
I remember there was Jersey walls set up on the bridge, and I imagine that probably was attributed to why there's so many calls.
See, next slide. Actually, break down here.
He's saying since 2005. That wasn't all in 2005.
Yeah, 2005, we had 161,000 calls, for example, and then that peaked up to 800 in 2007, into the millions up until about 2013. Tapered off a little bit in the 700s and 500s, 1 million in 2019, and then 900,000 last year.
That's to the automated call system?
Yeah. Yes, sir. And next slide, I talked about that advanced traffic management software that TJ's highway operations technicians enter in their incident information. And an incident can be described as a debris in the roadway, a stopped vehicle, police activity, a crash, medical emergency, anything in that area, out of gas, anything in that disabled vehicle category. 62,000 incidents. Next slide breaks it down a little bit since 2005, and we can go back a little longer. But AOC South's formalized staffing and posture here is why we're starting at the 2005 mark. And you can see several thousand, those are actually IVR calls, DJ, or no, those would be incidents. Just the top says the wrong thing, right? Yeah, so 62,517, and you can see each year through the years, through the 2000s, 4000s, 3000s, 4000s, and 4,347 as of last year events here on the footprint of the William Preston Lane Bridge. So some systems overview as we close up here a little bit. Next slide of what the operators are looking at. Next slide. Here's a screenshot of the graphic user interface that our highway operations technicians use when they bring up the baseband IVR system. And, some boilerplate that's in there. Thank you for calling the Bay Bridge at this time, but there are no backups or delays, or there are backups and delays. There's some drop downs and some queues to automate. We've come a long way since 2005 of operators talking into our IVR system. The automation makes it easier and quicker to disseminate information as it's rapidly changing. Next slide. Some screenshots of the chart advanced traffic management software that I've talked about and the user interface that's there. This is an example of a planned lane closure that was on US 50 at Bay Bridge. And we call it that when we go into two-way operations in the system, much like it would be anything, we close a lane to go into that. So it is a closure. And we have timestamps, we have record of information. Jason's SHA operators also can see that. They can look and they're sharing the same system in our operation centers. So from a regional system and total system of US 50 corridor approach, we are sharing and disseminating that information. When they pop up, when they open up an incident or a event like this for a closure, everything I talked about in the earlier part of the presentation in the ITS toolbox, DMS signs, CCTV cameras, they all populate up in that area, in that region. Now, granted, it's a smaller footprint respectively here, but everything that an operator needs to program, what messages, what locations, what cameras are near, it's very automated and simplified to help with the operator to quickly and effectively capture the incident information, and then that information is paged out internally as well as with our public safety folks as well. different than our Gov delivery messages that are also populated for when we need to put out delay information when we get above a 2.5 mile queue. And our Division of Communications handles that on the normal basis, and then during peak period season, April to October, on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, TJ's Highway Operations Technicians here at the AOC South put out those Gov delivery messages for information dissemination. Next slide. Talked about the lane use signal system. This is a snapshot of the current configuration in the software. And just so everyone here knows, if you didn't know, from a public safety emergency response and a consistency, as well as engineering and operations internally, here is the north side of the bridge, which will actually show and lane 1. So the farthest right lane of the westbound span of the bridge, which is north, is lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, and then switching to the eastbound bridge, continuing south in direction, ends up being lane 4, and then the farthest right lane of the eastbound bridge is 5. We keep that and we use that so when we have to quickly call out something or identify a location, that is actually the numeric system of the lanes for the bridge. And again, that's the snapshot of the actual system, red, green, that the operators use with the current lane control system that's on the bridge now. Last graphic user interface slide we'll show here is a snapshot of the luft wind monitoring system. So when we bring this up for our anemometers, and this particular snapshot was from around March 25th, not a lot of high activity. You can see the graph peaks from winds around, beginning around 10 miles an hour to a peak of 14 miles an hour, and on the westbound bridge. And the eastbound bridge around 12 miles an hour, peaking to about 18 miles an hour. And you can see what we look at as trends that helps us with our decision making. More importantly here, today's not an active day, but you would see wind gusts, which are very important and critical to us for the decisions we make and going into and not going into two-way operations, as well as putting out our wind restrictions and wind warnings at the different levels. So gusts show, our wind speed averages show, and wind direction. So another tool in the operator's toolbox within our operations center that they're looking at for the decision making. And that is, next slide is the last slide. So try to keep it high speed, low drag. I know we're a little late in the evening, but certainly happy to answer any detailed questions you may have.
Just quick, because I'm a weather geek. Do you ever use the wind prediction apps like Windy, or there's a number of them that are pretty good to see if the predicted winds, see how the predicted winds kind of match up with your graphs? So you could be looking to see what is forecast that's going to be coming for the day. That, Windy says at 3 o'clock we're going to be getting gusts from the northeast at 35 to 40. So that's coming, or it's predicted to come, and then you should check that later with your actual graphs to see if what's predicted, does that help you at all, or would that help you at all, or are you just looking at actually what's going on?
Reasonably and factually and fully transparent, we are real live, situationally looking at what we can react
sitting down at the beginning of the day going, hey, Wendy says we're going to have 40 knots at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
I don't want to say we don't, other than I don't want to say there's a formal tactical process to incorporate that tool into our decision-making toolbox. It happens ad hoc because of experience and seniority and tenure and supervision that may be there in coordinating with TJ and traffic management. I know he'll want to say something. But, remember, Cole, we're focused on the exacts and the durations. We'll look more at what's predicted from when we start the event than prior to. But
okay, no, fair enough. I'll just
TJ.
So one of the things we do is I pay attention to the weather every morning. Have the weather channel on. If I know,
I figure out how to dress.
Exactly. I know I need to put extra socks on. We pay attention to that and watch the local weather, not the national weather. Now, also too, is we have the weather channel that we actually watch, which will show it regionally, but also too, is we can predict that the storms out Midwest, they may hit us in 2 days. Guess what? Operation needs to be attention. So the thing about our winds, we have a redundant system. Not only does the AOC monitor that, the DO, the duty officer for the police department, actually in a separate room has a monitor too. So we're basically covering ourselves to say, hey, look at the winds. And we kind of remind each other, okay, look, we're getting to the threshold, because once we get to the threshold, we start making some phone calls. When we get to phase 3, and this is a lessons learned from when we had the bridge closure at the Susquehanna River, there was a communication failure on all parts because none of the locals. What we do now is we actually call the EOCs on your side of the bridge and on the county side. By the way, guess what? We're in phase 3. If the winds continue like that and get any worse, we will probably have to shut the bridge down just so they can notify your EMS and your emergency services where that is. See, these are some of the things, lessons learned about that.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Just last point in terms of do we look forward at the forecast? As was mentioned earlier, our communications department, they do that regularly so that when, you know, in the morning, if we, obviously things change, weather happens, but if we can put out at 8 o'clock in the morning that, hey, this afternoon, the forecast is showing high winds, be prepared that we may not be able to run two-way, they do that.
Got it.
So we do look at the forecast and try to message whenever possible.
Real quick, I just found out the survey ended at the end of March.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's the month of April.
Jim?
Yeah, and I would just say that, you know, it affects construction activities as well on the bridge, and it has a big impact.
Yeah.
And Richard, and the construction team is on a call every day, and one of the things that they talk about is the projected winds, because they have to decide whether they're going to go or no go on construction. So on the construction side, we look at how closely we're getting that right, because it affects all of our work for that night if we can't go. And so it is, you know, pretty accurate when they make the call to not go because of winds. You know,
I'm going to go home and look up the Luff thing. That seems pretty cool. I'm sure they must have information about it on the web.
Yeah, they're used widely around the nation in DOTs as we switched our system a decade plus years ago from the SAILA to the LOOKT system, and it's been very, very, very good for us at my time at SHA and
The threshold for wind for construction got to be less than traffic, right?
It's the same wind.
It's the warning
for all for construction.
It's the same?
It's 30 to 930, there's 40 to 40. Yeah. And now for construction, as Jim was mentioning, I mean, there's also, you know, wind variation for equipment that may vary, but they're usually within those general guidelines as well.
And we require the contractors to design anything that they have to mount to the bridge to, I think it's ASCE 7, the standard for wind design. And so there's, when it comes to construction, there's multiple layers of requirements related to wind.
And also just, Fred, from an operational and emergency perspective, we're always looking out because there are barges sometimes that we have out for construction and various other things. So we do look at that in advance and for communication purposes.
So I'd like to go over baseband real quick. So there's good news. We've updated our system. Now, one of the things that the feedback we got from both sides of the community is to remind drivers to stay on 50. So at the very beginning of the message, we'll remind drivers to stay on 50. That was a big takeaway that we got from a lot of community meetings, the engagement, the feedback. So we listened to what we had to say, and we actually had to revamp the entire system. And this should be up in full operation by the first week of May, prior to the season. So this will remind, and then now remember, when there's no traffic delays, it's just going to have, there are no delays east to westbound. But once we get into the delays, we will actually remind the drivers to stay on 50 to help you out and to help us provide that exceptional customer service to you all and do that.
You can see we're touching a lot of folks with this.
How many is it, like from 95 or those boards, or is it as you get closer?
No, this is our baseband IVR system. Okay, sir. This is, so notice when they call that 187 baseband. Okay. This is what the message you're going to get. Please remind all drivers to do that, and then we have an easy test message. And I know Will and I worked on this for couple of years because of the contract. We had to redo an entire contract. And so again, I think that was a big win, and that's going to help you all and help us mitigate some of these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks. It's late, so trying to, a lot of good information there, so. Before we move on to the next item, new business, MDTA Public Affairs Manager John Sales would like to speak to the group about the MDTA's upcoming summer travel fair.
I'm just gonna be real quick, nothing formal presentation, but my name is John Sales. I'm acting Deputy Director of Communications for the MDTA. I've been here for about 10 years. So thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate it. A lot of great things that I'm hearing about communications at the Bay Bridge. Very exciting. We have several people in our office who are public information officers. They do a lot of the on-call duties. I'll call them, updating our social media pages, Twitter at the MDTA, as well as our Facebook page. We also, in our office, work on our public websites. We put out, issue news releases and traffic advisories for major announcements. So it's really great to hear all the positive feedback here on our communications front. And I'll certainly relay that to my team back at the office as well. So we do use a variety of resources to get the word out about what's happening at the Bay Bridge, as we've been discussing throughout the meeting. Of course, baseband is really the best place to get that 24/7 real-time updates. Our Authority Operations Center is responsible for putting that messaging out, but you can obviously access it through phone by calling 1-877-BASEBAND. There's also a live stream of that baseband alert on the website at baybridge.com. So if you visit our website, you can hear the message itself from there. So, you know, that's really a key resource. Again, it's 24/7 updates. We also, again, as I mentioned, put out updates for major incidents, and not just at the Bay Bridge, but for all of our toll facilities across the state. We put that on our Twitter page. Facebook we use more for kind of those general announcements, you know, kind of those feel-good stories, videos, and that kind of thing. And we also are using the Gov Delivery platform. Those are for those email alerts, text alerts that you know I've been receiving. Our primary messaging for that is traffic delays, you know, how far back the delays are in either direction. But also, you know, the status of two-way operations, wind warnings or restrictions, if those are in effect, and of course, traffic incidents. Put all that out on our Gov Delivery system. People can sign up for those alerts on our website, mdta.maryland.gov. You can actually choose if you want to just get alerts about the Bay Bridge, or you can select other toll facilities. If you use the ICC or, you know, one of the tunnels in Baltimore, you can select that as well. And you'll get those email or text alerts, whichever you choose. So that, as Joey mentioned in his presentation, we are going to be increasing the frequency of those bulletins as we get closer to the summer, May through October, summer travel season. So you start seeing those emails coming through pretty hot and heavy. Again, with delays eastbound hit 2.5 miles, we'll start chucking out those alerts for everybody to see. So. Also, we use Gov Delivery, as Will mentioned, to give that general notice when there's going to be inclement weather, if it's raining outside, if it's windy, you know, we put out a message to remind folks that there's a potential for no two-way traffic operations during the afternoon rush hour. So we'd like to get that out early, and so people are aware that that could be coming due to high winds or rain or what have you. And then we talked about Spike and Notice. That's kind of the fun side of our communications efforts. That's the marketing side. We have our message this year is going to be go early, stay late. And we have that Spike and Notice image that you saw earlier. That's going to be on billboards. You're going to see it in ads. See it ads on your computer if you're visiting like a media website. You're going to see it on our our web pages, all over social media. So that's kind of the fun part of this job. And we also have radio ads and a radio jingle for Spike and Notice. So pretty fun there. So anyway, that's real quick. Just a reminder that you're going to start seeing those email alert and text alerts. So anybody has any questions, let me know. And please, as always, encourage your community members or your constituents to sign up for those Delta points.
What would be helpful, and you may not know this, but when I read your text alert, if I'm in traffic, if you have one word added to your notice, that it's due to an accident, due to wind or weather or something, it gives you an idea of what, how long you're going to be stuck in that traffic. If it's wind, it could be hours. If it's an accident, it might be an hour before they clear the bridge. But if you're just wait, because I'm always saying, what's wrong? What happened? Why am I in 10 miles of traffic?
Yeah, I think the text alerts are a little bit different. If you sign up for the email ones, we have a little bit more detail. Again, for what reason, for a crash in the left lane, eastbound, or wind warnings. We also, one thing I didn't mention, though, we put out the best time to travel in those emails as well when they go out. Remind people, hey, tonight, after 9 p.m. is the best time to cross the Bay Bridge. Maybe not tonight, but, you know. So, yeah, that's certainly great.
All right. Moving on to one of the last things we have here to new items. Member Colwood brought a couple of things to the last minute. Thanks for Senator Riley.
Yeah, I can put that on the next agenda. Don't worry about it.
Anybody that doesn't remember,
I learned a lesson.
and you can see how in depth the MDTA goes. They totally PowerPoint because they get rocked when they get wrong information to somebody and come back and said, you were wrong, told me this, told me that. So Melissa asked for information a month ahead for any agenda item. I'm not picking on it, but everybody from now on to try to get up to Melissa a month ahead to give Tim, Jen, Will, everybody plenty of time to either come up with appropriate information from all the records that they have to go back and dig from them, or to do a PowerPoint so it's more explanation.
Talking about lessons learned. Lesson learned. When you send out the notice for agenda items, speak. So if I want to ask Senator Riley if he has questions for BRAG, I need to do it within a day or two of getting your agenda, and then I can put it on there.
The really short answer is there's nothing that's we think should lead you to believe that this summer is not going to have significant backups. It's going to have significant backups. It's going to back up both eastbound and westbound.
We're an optimist.
COVID or not.
So make sure that on Saturdays, the refrigerator is well stocked with cold beer because I'm not going to Cape St. Clair.
Right. All right, are you okay with your?
Yeah. I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Oh, no way to have time to get it.
Yeah, no problem.
So, now open the floor to comments from the public. Do you have anybody that have any comments on the?
We just had Putnam sign up to speak.
Hi, most of you know me. To answer a question that was asked earlier, there are 19,000 residents who exist on the south side of the Broadneck. There are about 48,000 residents in the entire Broadneck area, and there are 10,000 members of the Broadneck Council, of which I have been president since '07. I've lived in this area for 55 years. I have seen it go from wagon train type of travel to now Star Wars that I see tonight. And again, we thank you very much for all the hard work. We know what it takes, and I've been involved with you all for many, many years. I started the Broadneck Council in '07. The main thrust there was because of all the noise level coming up from the residents of the Broadneck Peninsula on the traffic problems. And I truly can state that I don't think that, even though we've accomplished many things as far as keeping developments down on Route 50, we've got this county police handling the Sandy Point State Park. That was all our work. I've been working on that traffic light on Pleasant Branch Road, members of my board. but couldn't do it without you guys. This is the first time in all the years I've worked with you that I felt a true partnership with this organization. I've always felt like I was a pain in the neck. So here I am complaining about the traffic again. I see, obviously, all the work you're doing. We're waiting, obviously, for EPA2. That's very important. And I wanted to particularly thank Tim Smith, who came and spoke at our Broadneck Council General Meeting on 2/24, and he really made a difference. I've had so much good feedback, other than he was restricted and limited in what he was trying to do for us, and that is to come up, as Andre had talked about, with the options that we need to help protect those service roads and keep the jumpers from jumping off of Route 50 onto the service road, because our peninsula residents just cannot get home. Okay. I wanted to make you aware of the fact that we have another challenge. If any of you want to come, I know some of you might want to come to our meeting. On the 19th of May, I have got County Executive Stuart Pittman coming to speak to members of the Broadneck Council as well as the residents. One of the concerns we have, Stuart is promoting the national park designation for Holly Beach Farm. Also, he's interested in pursuing a ferry service at the end of Holly Beach Farm. If you can think of the amount of traffic, national park means it can come from Texas, that would bring to the peninsula. Think about it. A ferry service, really? I've had numerous conversations with Stuart. He still wants to study it, and he's going to speak about it on the 19th. So if anybody wants to come and tell him how you feel about having a ferry service at the end of Holly Beach Road, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Our next meeting will take place on Wednesday, July the 6th, and hopefully it'll be here in person at 6 p.m. So may I please have a motion to adjourn?
Tracy, can I do one very quick announcement, if I could? No?
You're good.
Huh? You're good. Ken Island Day is Saturday, May 21st. Great opportunity for outreach. Richard and I talked about it. A couple thousand people face to face, and I think we will have a MDTA exhibit. And we always ask for the MDTA color guard police at the head of the parade, and it's great. So good outreach opportunity coming up. Thank you.
Yo, votes for adjournment? So moved. Thank you all for coming. Sorry it's so long, but a lot of good information.
Thank you.